Hi, I'm Dave Atkinson, and welcome to Life on the Straight. For this great adventure series, I'll be reading from my 3-volume book, The Yonder Years, and this video will be providing a little more content than what is in the book. In this segment, we decide to replace Gypsy with a new motorhome. We will stop off in Portland to look it over and then return to Poulsbo for my upcoming medical appointment and for a few weeks layover to meet up with some friends. Then we'll be heading back to Meridian, Idaho to take possession of Gypsy 2. G2 will be her nickname going forward. Thank you for following Life on the Straight. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe to this channel, which is free, and like and share as well. And now, the Yonder Years. I suggested going into the Camping World showroom and talking to a salesperson about perhaps ordering a coach with the options that we were looking for and maybe taking possession back near the Winnebago factory in Iowa. He wanted to research what was available at the various Camping World stores around the country first, so I headed back to Gypsy to hang out. Within an hour, my phone rang, and it was the salesperson. He found a brand new 2013 Itasca Sunova 35G in the Portland, Oregon area for sale. Winnebago was offering a big discount due to the fact that in a few months, the 2015 models would soon be arriving in the stores, and they wanted to clear out all of the 2013 inventory beforehand. Even though it was a 2013 model, it was new and would come with a full 12-month factory warranty. It was also loaded with options, everything we had asked for and more. Now we had a decision to make. Camping World would take Gypsy as a trade-in, but she wouldn't be worth half of what we paid for her. And that's not to mention the money spent for things we fixed, replaced, and added. The reality soon sank in that we were now full-timers, and we didn't have the leverage that someone just looking for a coach for occasional getaways would have. The discount that we would get, because it was a 2013 motorhome, would be offset by a low trade-in amount. Once we started contemplating the cost of fixing Gypsy's increasing list of defects, the thought of owning a motorhome covered by a warranty won the argument. We signed the paperwork including a loan from Bank of the West. The stipulation was that upon inspection of the new coach in Portland, if we weren't satisfied with what we saw, we could cancel the deal. If we were satisfied, then the coach would be driven to Meridian, where we would take delivery and leave Gypsy behind. Wow, what a game changer as far as our adventure was concerned. Whether that purchase placed a little pressure on their service department, I can't say, but they finally got a mechanic out to look at the car's InvisiBrake system. They lubed it here and there and tweaked the compressor's setting, and it appeared to have done the trick. In the afternoon of the 20th, we were all hooked up and ready to leave the parking lot when I put on the brakes and saw that the InvisiBrake was not working. A mechanic eventually came out and didn't have an answer as to what was going on, but promised to look at it when we later returned to take delivery of our new motorhome. We departed for the Driftwood RV Resort in Boardman, Oregon by late afternoon. It would be a 260-mile drive, and the office wouldn't be open when we arrived, but they gave us instructions on how to check in at night. Planning ahead, we reserved the next night at the Thousand Trails campground near Chehalis, Washington, and then 2 weeks back in Poulsbo at the Eagle Tree RV Park, a park we would later unaffectionately refer to as the Pickle Jar for how tight the rigs were spaced to each other. On the way to Boardman, we stopped in Baker City for fuel, Gypsy and us, and then we got back onto I-84 heading west. As we approached Pendleton, Oregon, the level of anxiety swung from minimum to maximum as Deadman Pass loomed ahead. Excuse me. You get plenty of notice with signs stating how long and how steep the grade will be, and for trucks and us to use their lower gears, and in case of runaway acceleration, to use the loose gravel off-ramps, which will hopefully keep you from flying off the side of the mountain. As we began our long and white-knuckled descent, the InvisiBrake system, of course, failed to engage. I just creeped down that hill as slow as I could possibly go, using Gypsy's lower gears and brakes to check our speed. What a relief it was to pull into the RV park that evening and for me to finally release my death grip from the steering wheel. We pulled into the Wood Village, Oregon Camping World store the next afternoon. They had moved the 35G under the roof of the service check-in bay, and it was ready for our inspection. We carefully noted and photographed all of the blemishes, but we were nothing but smiles that day. It was only about 2.5 feet longer than Gypsy, but because it employed 3 slide-outs rather than 1 that Gypsy used, the interior just felt vast in comparison. It had the options that were high on our list: the stacking washer-dryer, the 4-door fridge-freezer with ice maker, the propane range with oven, the roof-mounted heat pumps for AC and heating, and the full-body paint job. And it had even more options: the electric fireplace, the outdoor entertainment center, which is a 32-inch LCD TV, an AM/FM stereo, and a CD/DVD player with remote, and then the front lower protective mask, which prevents the paint from bugs and rocks. Another nice thing was that you could see out the back from the cab. Gypsy's back was completely covered with the bedroom storage closets, but the 35G had a nice big window. It wasn't something that would be helpful for me when driving, but at least Buzzy could sit on a bed and have a view. We told someone at the dealership that the sale was a thumbs up, and we headed off towards Chehalis to complete our 240-mile day of travel. The Chehalis Camping World was really an experience. It was full of rigs, and it was located on a very hilly area. We had to detach the toad at the bottom, and I remember it being a tight drive up to where the rigs were parked. And being a Thousand Trails site, it was first come, first served, so Amy took the lead in the Honda and staked out a suitable site until I finally lumbered along and could back into it. This is our second Thousand Trails campground, and I was already tiring of them. We continued to use them over the year that our pass was valid, but it was doubtful that we'd renew our membership. The next day was an easy 115-mile drive to the Pickle Jar and Poulsbo. At least during this stay, they put us in a campsite that had a bit of elbow room. We had been gone from the area for barely over a month, and yet it seemed like so much time had already elapsed since our May 20th departure from Kingston. The reason that we returned to Poulsbo was for my upcoming colonoscopy on June 25th. But now that we decided to go through with the purchase of a new motorhome, we needed to kill a little more time in order for the Camping World people to transport it back to Meridian and to get the things on our punch list fixed. It was a nice break on our adventure, getting to return home to spend some time with our friends. We went around a bit with the Meridian Camping World folks, insisting that transporting the coach from Portland to Meridian would not be done on our dime, and also insisting that they reinstall the InvisiBrake system since ours had operated so erratically. We left Poulsbo on July 6th and traveled south to Longview to spend a few days with our good friends and to visit with my brother who lived a short distance away. As we were leaving Longview, a call came in from the Meridian Camping World saying that they had received their motorhome, but that the generator wasn't working. The motorhome was parked at the Cummins facility awaiting a fuel pump that had to be ordered, which might push the delivery date out a bit. I told them not to worry and that we'd pad the time with stays at various RV campgrounds along the way. We returned to Boardman, Oregon for 2 nights, but this time to try a different campsite, the Boardman RV Park, which was owned by the city. What a gorgeous campground! It felt more like a park than an RV campground, with large leafy shade trees and irrigated lawn everywhere you looked, and the campsites were extremely spacious. The Wi-Fi was good enough that we could stream Netflix over it. Unfortunately, they had to move us from our spacious spot overlooking the Columbia River to an interior spot for the second night, but the prices were just so reasonable that we didn't really mind. Just $33.60 for the first night and $23.85 for the second night. We put Buzzy on a leash and let him out into the grass to get some fresh air. He was so cute, riding on my shoulder and checking everything out. With a full tank of gas, we departed on a 232-mile leg towards Country Corners RV Park in Caldwell, Idaho, which is just west of Meridian. This time, Deadman Pass wasn't a problem since we were going uphill. Gypsy didn't go very fast pulling our toad, but she made it. Country Corners was just neat as a pin, with the office made up like an old general store. They even had a pea patch garden that their customers could help themselves with if anything was ripe for picking. The Wi-Fi was reasonably fast, and they gave us a box for our TV so we could tie into their satellite feed. Not familiar with the area around Caldwell, Amy and I went for a drive one day. What a beautiful and incredibly fertile area it is. The Snake River winds through miles of flat or gently rolling farmland with a large and man-made Lake Lowell directly south of town. Everything seemed to be growing there, from orchards of various fruit trees to fields of hay, onions, and grapes. Irrigation canals were everywhere we went, and the area boasted numerous wineries. We visited the San Chapelle Winery for some wine tasting and purchasing. We also visited the Deer Flat National Wildlife Refuge on the shore of Lake Lowell. There were plenty of trails to walk, as well as a bird blind to observe the abundant bird life in the area. While in Caldwell, we drove to a nearby Costco store for some groceries and ended up buying a new camera, a Nikon Coolpix P600. This camera had a 60 power zoom lens, but it was a relatively simple camera to use and didn't employ interchangeable lenses. We figured that if we were gone on a big adventure, that we needed to take better photos than what we had been able to take using our old cameras and iPhones. This turned out to be one of the best decisions that we made, as the Coolpix really captured some memorable shots along the way. On July 14th, we departed Caldwell and headed towards Meridian, where we would spend 4 nights in the Camping World parking lot. On the day we arrived, our rig wasn't quite ready to go. They were still tending to a few items on our punch list, plus they had to uninstall the mud flap, InvisiBrake, and the tire pressure mounting system from Gypsy and reinstall it on the new coach. Thankfully, we were in one of Camping World's guest spots with power, because it was blazing hot out that day, and we had the AC unit running to keep us cool. Amy spotted an elderly woman standing out in a hot parking lot looking towards the service bays, so she invited her to come inside and get out of the heat. This began our friendship with Harold and Janet Coyle, which continues to this day. The couple was from the little town of Dover, Ohio, not too far south from the Football Hall of Fame in Canton. They were traveling in an older motorhome that they had equipped with some performance modifications from a company called Banks, and the welds on the exhaust header had broken. They were barely able to get the engine to limp into this camping world, and like us, they didn't have an appointment. Harold was going through the same hoops with the service department that I had gone through weeks earlier, just trying to be a squeaky wheel to the degree where they would help him. I believe that Camping World rolled their motorhome out so they could sleep in it that night, but the work was still not completed. Meanwhile, Amy and I headed into town for some dinner, ending up at an Outback steakhouse. Late the next day, our new motorhome was ready. They parked it next to Gypsy so we could transfer all of our stuff over. Harold and Janet chipped in. It was amazing how much stuff we were carrying with us on our trip. Buzzy was having a grand time investigating all the chaos. By the time we finished, it was late and we settled on a bucket from Kentucky Fried Chicken for our dinner. We couldn't leave the next day because our InvisiBrake issue had not yet been resolved. We bought a new power adapter, sewer hose kit, tire covers, storage containers, and a bath rug for the new coach. We finalized some paperwork as we signed Gypsy over to the Camping World store. I removed Gypsy from our auto insurance policy and placed her with our new coach. I drove it towards a nearby Costco to fill it up with gas, and we returned some motor oil we had purchased the previous month that we no longer needed. This was the first time that I drove the new coach, and it was very smooth with rock-solid handling, a major improvement over Gypsy. We went out with Harold and Janet for dinner over the next 2 nights, and on the 18th, we were finally ready to depart. The mechanics completely reinstalled the InvisiBrake system and told us that the Fife Camping World store did a lousy job of installing it in the first place. The cable sheath between the hydraulic cylinder and the brake pedal had not been placed in the correct path, causing it to kink somewhere along the line. The cable that slides inside the sheath couldn't move freely through that kink, and that is why it would sometimes bind up and not work. To their credit, we never had any more issues with the InvisiBrake system after the Meridian Camping World mechanics reinstalled it. We said goodbye to Harold and Janet along with Gypsy. If we ever found ourselves in Ohio, they invited us to spend some time with them, as they had plenty of room in their driveway along with hookups. Gypsy had been with us for nearly 8 months and acted as the booster rocket getting us up to our adventure orbit. It had been a costly rookie miscalculation, hoping that a used motorhome bought from a dealership with who knows what kind of history in her record would make a suitable vehicle for a journey of the magnitude that we were now on. Sometimes the more expensive the mistake, the more one learns from it, and we did indeed learn several lessons with Gypsy. Now the baton had been passed to our new coach. What were we going to call her? We settled on Gypsy 2, or G2 for shorthand. That name stuck, and from now on, we were traveling in G2. Off to our next destination, Boise Riverside RV Park, just outside of Boise in the suburb of Garden City. Now we would have a brand new shakedown cruise to get through.